It's episode 514 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. I'm your host, Brice Paterik. Here on today's episode, I'm talking about the new top 10 Rangers prospects as ranked by Baseball Prospectus, a mock draft, and all that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm your host, Brice Paterik. This is episode 514 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen of the day. I'm here this Christmas week. I want to thank you guys for that. And, go ahead and follow me if you're not already on Twitter at Brice Paterik. Follow the show at Locked On Rangers. And subscribe on YouTube or wherever the heck you get your podcast. Now, you might have noticed, a little bit of applause. I don't have a crowd with me, but I do have some new little sound features on my keyboard that I'm trying out to make the show a little bit more fun. Some, little sound drops and sound effects and make the music coming out of the ad breaks a little bit more clean. I don't know. All kinds of fun stuff that I'm kind of experimenting with. So if it doesn't sound great, bear with me. It will eventually sound really good, but you guys get to be the guinea pigs that go through it. Also, you'll notice my Christmas festive get up. I'm feeling very festive today, wearing this old Christmas shirt that I haven't worn in forever, wearing a Santa hat because I'm feeling ridiculous. And this little tree, I don't know if you've been noticing it the last few episodes. It's been there sporadically, turned on or off, basically if I just forget to, because, whatever. I'm in the Christmas spirit. My family's in town for the holidays. So it's a great week. I hope it's all a great week for you. Those of you who the holidays are very hard for, thinking of you. And I know it's going to be hard for everybody, and also a great time if things are going well for you. But, things are going pretty well for the Rangers. They got themselves their Christmas shopping done early. They got Corey Seager. They got Marcus Semien. They got John Gray. They also got Cole Calhoun. And, they've still got a few things more on their list, but it's going to take a while for them to actually get those items crossed off their list, because those stores for free agents are closed for a little while. They're still in the lockout. In case you're curious, here's my lockout update. It's still happening. Also, there was a meeting between players, union, and management on last Thursday. I didn't see anything very productive that was going on, but at least they are meeting. I think they're probably not going to meet during this week or during the holiday season. It'll probably won't be until the new year. Then I think they'll really start making some headway. I'm hoping by about the middle of maybe the middle of January that the lockout's going to be done. I think that's about what I predicted. And I'm hoping that I'm right, not just because I like being right, but also because I would like for the Rangers to sign some free agents, to have some things to talk about in January. Because January is always very dead. I got a lot of ideas, hopefully trying to book a lot of guests for the month of January, trying to maybe get some more Rangers prospects or players. I don't know. I'm not making any promises, but I am saying that I'm trying. So we'll see what comes of it. Also, I do have a very special guest for later on this week. I'm not going to have a Tuesday episode. I'm going to spend that time with my family and then record these episodes and have them for you on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, hopefully around 3 to 4 in the afternoon. On Wednesday's episode, I'm going to have Grant Schiller. We're going to talk about some Christmassy kind of things, some goofy things. That's just what we do. On Thursday, the very holy day of Festivus, hoping to have a Festivus-themed episode with a couple of the hosts around this network, one who I haven't talked to in quite a while, one who I've talked to quite a bit. And on Friday, I would have Levi Weaver of The Athletic. I think we will get that nailed down. Been trying to have him on the show for a little bit, but he's been busy. He also took some vacation time, and I wanted to give him a break from some of the Ranger stuff. But he's got all kinds of great insight. That'll be a lot of great shows going on this week. But this is kind of a catch-all episode. There's some new things that came out in the last couple of weeks that I thought were noteworthy. Also, one thing that I missed from several weeks ago, because, in all the great fun that was the Rangers spending $500 million in a couple of days, there were a couple of minor things that I missed that I wanted to go ahead and get to. And one of those, I'm going to go ahead and start with this John Blake tweet from, I think 3 weeks ago today. Yeah. Rangers' new Major League bench coach and offensive coordinator, Donnie Ecker, has been selected as Baseball America's 2021 MLB Coach of the Year for his work as the hitting coach of the San Francisco Giants. Congratulations to that man. He did a great job of resurrecting some guys' careers. Buster Posey had an amazing final year of his career. A lot of that was thanks to the help of Donnie Ecker. Some of these other veterans, Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford, Evan Longoria, just a lot of guys had career years out of seemingly nowhere, guys who it felt like they had tailed off quite a bit. That's why I'm so excited about Donnie Ecker. He's not just going to be a bench coach. He's going to be in charge of the entire offensive strategy. That's what the role of offensive coordinator means. He's going to be implementing some of the things that he did, including doing batting practice off of pitching machines, which helped a whole lot with their ability to hit fastballs. The Giants were not very good at hitting fastballs before Donnie Ecker came around, and now he was there and he helped them quite a bit. And I think that'll be very helpful for the Rangers. So congratulations to that man. The Rangers are getting the coach of the year to come and completely revamp how they're doing their offense, which is much needed because their offense was really bad last year. Like, they got a bunch of new hitters that are going to be really good, really fun. Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Cole Calhoun. Maybe less excited about Cole Calhoun. He's still a solid player, a really good player. But those two superstars, they had great seasons. They probably had pretty good hitting coaches, but I think Donnie Ecker is one of the best in the business. And he's going to surely help them quite a bit with their swings and hopefully have them have even better seasons than they had last year. I don't know. I'm not holding out much hope for that because that feels a little ambitious, but I don't think it's out of the question to say they're going to have some really good seasons and hopefully come close to what they've been doing for their careers, because those two middle infielders are some fantastic hitters. They are, for their career, just some of the best hitters at their positions in baseball. Marcus Semien was by far the best second baseman in all of baseball last year. Corey Seager, when he was healthy, was a top 10 shortstop pretty easily last year. And if he's healthy, he could be a top 5-1 offensively. He's right up there near the top. His defense isn't quite to the likes of Correa and some of the other more impressive defensive shortstops, but he is still slugging with the absolute best of them. And I'm just, gosh, I still have to pinch myself and remember that this is actually real. The Rangers did spend $500 million. They did get John Gray, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, and also Cole Calhoun. You know, they got a little bit of coal in their stocking. The Rangers did. I feel pretty good about that one. But they liked it. They liked that coal in their stocking, along with some presents. Yeah, not just presents, but coal. So they were good and bad this year, I guess. So that's why they got all of that good stuff in their stockings. But yeah, congratulations to Donnie Ecker for winning Baseball America's Coach of the Year. That is very, very impressive. And, you know, we're going to look a little bit more at the future, which I feel like is just the entire theme of this Ranger team. Like, don't look back. Don't look at the last year or the year before that. It was really ugly and painful and horrible. There's no reason to look at that. But we're going to look a little bit coming up at the top 10 prospects according to Baseball Prospectus, and a mock draft that had the Rangers picking somebody who I did not expect at all. First, I want to tell you guys about Built Bar. This holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Or, you know, sometimes I think they even taste better than a candy bar. It's fantastic, filled with so much holiday goodness, rich, decadent flavor covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories. It's so good. You know, it's low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and it's also high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. There's literally a bazillion different flavors. I think legally it's a bazillion. That's the numerical value that they have for the amount of flavors. And there's always more, all kinds of new stuff. You got to keep checking them out. And it's the season of peace and love. So don't fight about which one's your favorite with your family. Like, there's no reason to fight about that. Just buy a box with a whole bunch of them and share them with your family and let everyone pick their favorites. There you go. That'll solve all the holiday squabbling. Just buy some Built Bars. Tell Santa to throw some in their stocking. You know, it's going to make anybody happy on Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate. If you like those marshmallow treats around the holidays, you got to get your hands on some Built Bar Puffs. They're light, fluffy, and they're so good. You won't believe they're filled with protein, but I promise you they are. They are. So if you want to check them out for yourself, go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order. Promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So I'm here to talk about the top 10 prospects according to Baseball Prospectus. They came out this past week, I believe, actually, no, early, December 6th. It's been a while since I've been looking for content and trying to figure out what all they're doing over there at Baseball Prospectus. But they usually have a pretty good handle on prospects. They are some of the smartest people in baseball, and I really respect some of the work they do. But I think they're dead wrong on some of these prospects. I don't know, but we'll get into that. But it's kind of hard to mess up the top two of the Rangers prospects. I'm not coming out with my official top. I think I might do 30 this year. I think last year I did 20. Felt a little light. Felt like I could have done a little bit more. But I think I'm going to do top 30 prospects this year. I think I might start that series on sometime in January. I don't know. We'll get to it. I got to actually go rank the guys, look at who did what, and give you guys the earnest, full-fledged top 30 prospect rankings and try and put myself up there among the likes of Baseball America and Baseball Prospectus. I'm not quite as smart as those guys, but I know a thing or two, and I know quite a bit about the Rangers. So hopefully my prospect list will get just the marginal amount of respect that they deserve. Anyway, let's get into the top 10. Let's just list them off who they have at number 1. Obviously, they have Jack Leiter, the Rangers' first-round draft pick from this past year, selected number 2 overall, yada, yada, yada. Really great pitcher from Vanderbilt. Number 2, they have Josh Young. Number 3, infielder Justin Foscue. Number 4, Cole Winn. 5, Ezekiel Duran. 6, Owen White. 7, Josh Smith. 8, Glenn Otto. 9, Aaron Zavala. And 10, AJ Alexy. Now, some of these surprised me. A couple of these surprised me. Mainly in the bottom 5. I mean, the top 5, sure, I feel pretty good about them. It seems pretty solid. Jack Leiter being number 1, I'm pretty sure he's number 1 just about everywhere he is in these prospect rankings. I don't know if I'll have him number 1 come like in a few months because he hasn't thrown a professional pitch yet, and I don't trust pitchers. It's nothing on Jack Leiter. Jack, I think you're great. You're wonderful. You're not even listening to this podcast, so who cares what I'm actually saying to you? But if you are, it's not about you. It's about being a pitcher. But, Josh Young is definitely up there, number 2. Those are the 2 biggest prospects that are on the list. I'm surprised that they were as enamored with Justin Foscue. I thought, Grant got a few looks at him, and he said he didn't quite trust that he would, keep hitting at that level. Obviously, the defense is a little bit of a question. He's at second base, and he seems like he's only going to be at second base. The arm is not quite there for any other infield position. So he did have a great show of power, which is much more power than we thought he'd have at the draft. He was a guy who was a pretty, middle of the road guy. I'm surprised they took him as high as they did in that, I believe, 2020 draft. He was their first round pick that year. Yeah, so a couple of years ago, 1 year ago. Oh my gosh, what is time? But yeah, he had a great offensive breakout this year and is a solid hitter. Cole Winn, I would have him a little higher than Foscue personally, I think. I'm about to give away my entire rankings here. But I'm a little surprised because of how advanced Cole Winn is and how well he's done at every level he's been at so far, and how high his floor is compared to Foscue. I think Foscue, we thought he was a pretty safe prospect, but then he started showing a little bit more swing and miss than we thought he'd have this year. So I'm a little concerned about that. Ezekiel Duran being number 5. That makes sense, especially given the fall that he had, the year that he had with the Yankees. Not quite as great during the regular season, back half when he got traded to the Rangers, but the Arizona Fall League, he absolutely just crushed it. Showed a lot of power there. Think he's going to be a second baseman. That's okay because you got that much power. That'll play there, and it's very impressive to see what he's done. Owen White had another great fall star caliber Arizona Fall League. He also won MLB Pitcher of the Year in the Arizona Fall League, or I guess MILB Pitcher of the Year in the Arizona Fall League. Makes sense of him jumping up this high. I don't know that I'd have him at 6, but I respect that they do. Josh Smith being 7. Yeah, that about makes sense. Glenn Otto being 8. I don't know. I saw quite a bit. He obviously had a couple pretty impressive major league starts. I just don't know that I see him in the rotation as a long-term option. That slider's really great, but the rest of the stuff, I don't see it as much. I'm just a little confused that they have him this high. Obviously, they must be much higher on his floor. I don't know what his ceiling is. I think his ceiling is maybe a number 5 starter. I think that's really about as high as I could put him, honestly. And it's not to say he's bad. It's just I don't see him in the same caliber as some of these other guys, and I was surprised the guys they had behind him. It was just a little shocking to me, given how they've generally thought of prospects in the past. It's not exactly where I thought they'd be going with this. But at number 9, they had Aaron Zavala, the outfielder the Rangers picked in the second round out of, I believe, Oregon. Had a really solid short time in the major leagues. I talked a little bit about how this article that Evan Grant wrote about how difficult it was, the signing period, because he had a medical issue flare up and they had to decide if they were going to sign him, if he was even going to play baseball again. There was a real question about that. That's why he made about half as much of his bonus. Go read that story by Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News. Really great story. But he put up some really good numbers in a very limited time. 67 plate appearances in Down East, where he hit .302 and on base with .433 and slugged .434. Really solid performance out there. 1 home run in those 67 at-bats, 4 doubles, 10 walks to 13 strikeouts, 7 stolen bases without being caught. Yeah, some really solid numbers for him there. And I don't know, I like him. He's a pretty projectable guy. I I think he can play the outfield pretty decently. I have no qualms about them putting him right there. It's a little high for a guy who has got, less than 100 minor league plate appearances, but I don't blame him. He's a guy that picked in the second round they felt pretty good about, felt pretty safe. Left-handed bat who provides some pop, a lot of on base, and a marginal defensive value. That's fine. If you get on base at a 380 clip, you can play in the big league level. It's just a matter of sticking you somewhere, and they can live with that if you're putting up that kind of offensive production. Now, number 10, AJ Alexy. This is the one that I was also surprised at. I think I'm not quite as surprised as the Glenn Otto. I'd honestly have AJ Alexy higher than Glenn Otto. I know Glenn Otto, I think, had a little bit more success, a few more successful starts, but I just feel really good about AJ Alexy. I get some of the questions about how he hasn't pitched a whole bunch in the minor leagues just yet. He only pitched, a 73 and 2/3 innings, 73 and a third. They write their stats a little bit differently here on Baseball Prospectus, but not a whole lot of innings this year. Actually, maybe a little bit more than that. I think about 90 this year, because I was adding up the the Frisco plus the major league numbers. But he pitched 23 innings in the big leagues, 50 and a third in Frisco, and 14 and 2/3 up in AAA this year. Not quite as great in AAA, but he did pretty well in AA and had some pretty successful first couple of starts in the major league level, then got batted around just a little bit. But I like him. I think his upside is a little bit higher. I think it's maybe a middle of the rotation to 3-4 guy. I think he's more likely to hit that than Glenn Otto. Not to, trash on Glenn Otto, but I feel pretty good about that. I don't think he's going to be in the starting rotation next year. Maybe towards the end of the year, he can earn a spot in the rotation, but I think it'll take a little bit longer for him to actually break in than just going out in spring training. He needs a little more seasoning, as we saw at the end of last year, but that's okay because he had a pretty good start to his major league career with a couple of really nice starts, and being that young and making his debut then to be able to get something to build off of, I think is impressive and good for him. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about this and then go into who the Rangers were mocked to pick according to MLB Pipeline in next year's draft. But first, I want to talk to you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline is sponsoring this podcast, and BetOnline is covered for all this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football season continues to march to the playoffs, they're getting really close. I think the Cowboys are going to be in the playoffs, so you could place some bets on the Cowboys and how well they're going to do. You can make some bets on basketball and all that stuff. But BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports acting this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website. Sign up today. Receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. Basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the easiest and fastest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline. It's where the game starts. Now I'm talking about Baseball Prospectus and what they think of the Rangers prospects, who they have where, some confusing picks down towards the bottom half of their top 10, and they even went all the way down to the next two guys and some other random guys. They had Evan Carter at 11, which that was the main one that I was surprised they didn't have higher. Last year, I believe they had him in their top 10. They were the only place that had Evan Carter in their top 10. This is before his breakout season. Now, the things that they talked about, they said if he had stayed healthy, then he definitely would have been in the top 10. And him having multiple back issues as a teenager is definitely a cause for concern. But he just did so well. I get all those concerns. I get that he hasn't really played a whole bunch at all, but the time that he did play, it was just so impressive to me for him to do that at his age, at the age of 19, his first professional season. It's just so impressive to me that I don't really care about the sample size. I think he is, of the position player prospects outside of Josh Young, which is going to shed his prospect status pretty soon, I'd say that Evan Carter, in my book, has the highest upside of position players in this Rangers system. I know it's a pretty hot take for a guy who's played, 30, 40 minor league games, but I just feel so good about it and what he did and the stuff that is coming out of him at Rangers camps. I know that he's had the issues, but that doesn't diminish the upside of how special this kid could be if he gets anywhere close to what I think he could do. They also had Ronnie Enriquez at number 12. Some of the other guys they talked about, Tacoy Roba having a big season, and they felt really good about that. I'm not going to get into any more of this. I was surprised that they had one last thing on this before I move on to the mock draft, and this surprising pick that they had the Rangers making. They always rank their top 10 talents 25 and under, which I really like that they do that. So you can kind of get a sense of like, all right, how good are these prospects compared to the guys that are already up and doing things? The Rangers don't have a whole lot of guys 25 and under on that major league roster that are fitting in this group. I think Dane Dunning just passed that. Taylor Hearn just passed that. And so some of these young guys are not really on there. There's only one major leaguer on here. There are two major leaguers on there. There's Spencer Howard at number 4, which I feel like that's about accurate with all the questions that he has. Having him over Cole Winn is a little, it kind of makes sense. Having over Foscue, I don't feel super great about, but there are just so many questions about Spencer Howard that makes sense. But number 10 is Dennis Santana. I'm just kind of shocked. He's behind Glenn Otto. Honestly, I just don't really understand what the thinking is there. Maybe I'll talk to some of the BP guys, have them on here, and ask them to explain themselves and what the heck they were thinking. But good stuff. Go subscribe to Baseball Prospectus. It's a really great tool if you are super into prospects. They're very smart, much smarter than me. They have some great opinions, some great insights, and you can go read the scouting reports they wrote on these guys because they have some very great detailed stuff on these guys. So you should definitely go check them out and not just listen to me talk about what they're saying. So MLB Pipeline, MLB.com, they can't talk about current players. So what do? They make a mock draft. What a great time for a mock draft. 2022 mock draft came out a couple weeks ago. And, I was a little surprised based on some of the stuff that I had been reading a few months ago. Obviously, some things have changed since then. So some of the thoughts on what they were going to do at the top of the draft. Obviously, the Rangers picking number 3 next year. And the guys who are picking ahead of them, number 1 is going to be the Orioles. And number 2 is going to be the Diamondbacks. Behind them as the Pirates, Nationals, rounding out the top 10, the Marlins, Cubs, Twins, Royals, and Rockies. Those are the top 10 in that order from 6 on down. Now, number 1 in this draft is a guy who I hadn't read much about before this. He obviously had a really, really great summer because I did not see any kinds of reports like this based on what I was seeing before this. The Orioles are projected to pick Termarr Johnson, a second baseman out of Atlanta in high school. He's they say he's considered one of the best pure high school hitters in decades, which is pretty impressive. They said that scouts compared him to 2 different Hall of Famers, which this is legendary stuff. If he lives up anywhere close to this, it's kind of unfair to put on an 18-year-old or 17-year-old, however the heck old he is. But they said he had a mix of Wade Boggs' discipline and Vladimir Guerrero Sr.'s bat-to-ball skills. That's unreal because Vladimir Sr., Vladdy Guerrero Sr., who terrorized the Rangers for years with the Angels. That's the guy who could hit literally any ball. I remember his one year when he was with the Rangers, there was a ball that looked like it was going to hit him in the knee. Takes a step back. It was well out of the strike zone, and he clubs that thing over the left field wall and hits it for a home run. It was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. He has hit balls that have bounced off the dirt. He has hit balls from literally everywhere. He would swing at everything, and he would make contact with hitting. Not just contact, but good contact. It was absolutely absurd. And Wade Boggs is a guy who is, renowned for his incredible plate discipline, his approach at the plate. So, my God, that's super, super impressive if he can live up to that. And the Orioles might not be terrible forever if they can get him and pair him with their catcher that's the number one overall prospect, according to quite a bunch of sites right now, who's probably going to be up next year. Number 2, the Diamondbacks are projected to select Drew Jones, spelled D-R-U-W, who is the son of Andrew Jones, former Ranger. He is in high school, in Wesleyan High School in Peachtree Corners, Georgia, which I'm assuming is somewhere around the Atlanta area because all of these top early high school Georgia outfielders, they're always around this area. And they call him a taller, leaner version of his father. Could have some plus hitting ability and power, and he's also very fast and going to play really good center field defense. But at number 3, the Rangers are projected to take LSU third baseman Jacob Berry. He gets compared to Andrew Vaughn, who is a guy who went number 3 overall, made his debut this year. This is his first big league year with the White Sox. He's a guy who has prodigious power, a very, very great plate approach, and this guy is a switch hitter who plays third base. And made his first season with Arizona, and then he is transferring to LSU, so he's going to play for LSU this next year. So if you go and look him up on Baseball Reference, which I have done several times, his stats are obviously from Arizona. But in that first year in the college ranks, he was 20 years old. He's going to be 21 at the time of the draft, but he played in 63 games for Arizona. He had a great season. That is 297 plate appearances. For your reference, he had 19 doubles, 5 triples, 17 home runs. He walked 33 times, struck out 58, batting average of 352, on base 439, and slugged 676. That's an 1115 OPS. For those of you doing the math at home, and for those of you who are not, he also got hit by pitches 10 times. So he is obviously a guy who crowds the plate, but he's praised for his defensive upside. I think he can stick at third base. I think Andrew Vaughn was playing corner outfield / third base at the time. Vaughn is not playing third base anymore, obviously, because, Yoan Moncada, and he's not going to displace that guy over there. Or he's not Yoan Moncada. Maybe Moncada is playing second base. I don't know. But this is not a White Sox podcast. But Barry is a guy who's going to be hitting for average, for power, have a pretty good plate discipline. Obviously not super duper elite, but like really good, which is fine. I think that's a pretty solid guy. Obviously not the one who I wanted. The guy who I want is... there's a couple of guys that I wanted that are a little bit below this. Elijah Green, I was reading a little bit up on him. He has a very, very high ceiling. He is an outfielder at the IMG Academy in Florida. He was in Pittsburgh. But yeah, he's got well average above raw power and speed. He's going to play center field. He's got a pretty quality arm. But the reason that he fell a little bit, he was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick when I was reading things about him a few months ago. A guy who's got a super, super high ceiling, but swing and miss has come up a little bit and given teams a little bit of question. But obviously he's going to have another season in high school to show off what he can do. And another guy who I wanted, was projected at 6th in this draft, the younger brother of Josh Young. Jace Young, he plays second base, and he was the Big 12 Conference Player of the Year in 2021. Basically, the Young brothers went back-to-back. Since there was no 2020 season, Jace Young did quite a bit of power and with Texas Tech. He even hit a home run against one of the Rangers prospects when they did their fall league game against Texas Tech in Lubbock. And just a guy who's got a lot of power. There were some questions about Josh Young's power, but there's not a whole lot of questions about Jace Young's power, because this guy can hit balls very, very far. And I'm just stalling because I'm trying to look up his numbers. Where do we go? Nope, that is Josh Young. I'm looking at the wrong Young brother. But he hit for over 20 home runs this year in his first full year. 56 games, 21 home runs, on base of 462, slugging 697. This guy is an offensive force, and I would love to have a second base of Jace Young and a third base of Josh Young doing a 4-6-3 double play. Young to I don't know, whoever the heck's playing first base at that point in a few years once Jace Young will get called up. But doesn't have a whole lot of the defensive upside that Josh did. Not that Josh has a whole lot of defensive upside, but he's going to play a pretty decent third base, I think, for several years in the big leagues. Jace Young is probably going to be a second baseman or DH. Maybe they'll put him in left field. I'm not really sure, but that's not what matters. Jace Young can hit the crap out of a baseball, and I feel really good about that. I would love for them to draft him. Honestly, just get somebody, go find somebody. I feel the same way as last year's draft. Obviously, I'm not as smart as these scouts. I have, fewer looks at these guys than the people who are, paid professionally to go do this. But just find your guy, go get him, zero in on him. Don't be cheap. Don't try and do something smart. Just go get the best guy available. And if the two guys above the Rangers, the Orioles, and Diamondbacks screw up whoever they pick number 1 and 2, go get that best guy. Whoever you think is the best guy available at number 3, go get him. Hopefully a star, because this Rangers team desperately needs some stars in their farm system. They've got a couple, but it's not going to be long before Jack Leiter's at the big league level. It's not going to be long before Josh Young is at the big league level. Other than that, there's a whole lot of pretty decent major leaguers, I think, in the system. But again, they definitely need some stars. So Rangers, please go ahead and get yourself some stars. I would really appreciate that if you could just go ahead and do that. That'd be super nice of you. But whoever you think is best in this draft, Jacob Berry, I'd be pretty happy with that pick. Also, again, I would love an Elijah Green. I would also love a Jace Young for sentimental reasons, but also because he's a really dang good baseball player. But anyway, I feel really good about this and about the top 10 prospects, just looking at the state of the system as opposed to where it was a couple of years ago, it's just really encouraging to see where they have gone from where they were in just a very short amount of time, with some key trades, with some smart drafting and developing, and some other guys just having some breakouts that you didn't necessarily expect. So definitely encouraging time to be a Rangers fan. A great week of Christmas. Hopefully you're getting all rest and relaxed and have all your shopping done and all that good stuff. Go eat some cookies, go watch some random stupid bowl game, and once we get back for the new year, there'll be a few episodes that'll be out this week, so you should definitely go listen to those if you're looking for something to spend your time doing. But to do so, you got to go follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik, follow the show at Locked On Rangers, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to Locked On Rangers. That's going to do it for this episode, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.